Well, hello, 7th graders, and welcome to 13.1 Equations, Tables, and Graphs. You will need some graph paper for this section, so go see my side counter there to get those items. We will be, like the title says here today, writing some equations, creating and setting up some tables based off those equations, and then graphing the equations and the tables. Okay, our objective for today is that students will generate different representations of the same data. So from this data, we're going to be looking at three things: equations, tables, and graphs. Okay, remember that as you watch the video, if you need to pause at any time, especially when you're making the graph and creating a table, please do so that you have all the information down in your notes. All right, so our big idea today. All right, so representation of data. There are three ways to represent. You can write an equation, you can create a table, and you can create a graph, right? If you know one of them, you will be able to do the other two. So that's what we're doing today. I will give you one of those forms, you complete the other two. All right, so here's example one. Here is when the equation is given. So here we have the height h of an airplane after s seconds from takeoff. So we have h equals 12s. Because we have an equation here, right, we are going to then make the other two items, which is the table and the graph. Now, for the table, I am not going to give you the values for h and s. You get to plug in your own. So I have a little hint down here. When making your table, keep your values small. For example, 0, 1, 2, 3. Remember, the bigger numbers that you put in for x and y, or in this case h and s, the bigger your graph is going to have to go. So make sure that you keep them small. You can even put some negative numbers in. And then make sure that you should always include 3 to 5 values. 5 would be the best, right? Because we've talked about the more numbers you put in, the more accurate your data. But 3, 4 is good as well. All right, so here we go. Here's our equation, h equals 12s. Now, in most forms of equations, we're going to use an x and y, but you will find that they use different variables as well, which is the same as x and y. So our x is our seconds. It's the math that we're doing over here. H is our output. What are we getting? What is our y that we're getting from the information here? All right, so go ahead and create this table. In the first column here, we're given an equation. To solve this, we are going to plug numbers in for s. You plug in what you want, right? Remember, the smaller the numbers, then the smaller your graph gets to be. If I put 1,000,000 in here, then my graph has to go to 1,000,000, right? So, yeah, keep it small. All right, so pick some numbers. I'm going to pick 0, 1, 2, 3. All right. Based on that now, we are going to plug a 0 in for s, solve it, and our answer then is going to be our y, or in this case, our h. So 0 times 12 is 0. 12 times 1 is 12. 2 times 12 is 24. And 3 times 12 gives us 36. All right, so there's our table. We plugged in some numbers. Now remember that when you have a table, we have ordered pairs. Our x is our bottom number, left to right. Our y is how tall or how small or low we go on our graph. So let's go ahead and graph those. So we have the ordered pairs 0, 0, 1, 12, 2, 24, and 3, 36. So go ahead and graph those. All right, I'm going to see where so 0, 0, 1, 12, and it looks like we're counting by 5. So we're going to, there we go. We're going to go in the middle here. 2, 24. Just shy of 25, and 336. Well, there we go. And this is a line, so you're going to connect the dots. Okay, so there's our example. We give them the equation, we create the table, we make the graph, connect the dots there, and there we go. We got equations, tables, and graphs. Again, make sure you're pausing so that you get all this information down. All right, let's go to the next one. Example 2. What if I give you the table? How do you write the equation and make the graph? All right, so we have this table here. Here's our x values. Here's our y values. All right, to write the equation, we're going to always look for a pattern. What is happening? I had an x. Remember, x is what math you're doing first. So what are you doing to the 0 to get out a -1? what did you do to a positive 1 to get out a 0? So what math are you doing? And remember, the pattern has to be the same for all of them. So if I'm adding 2, I have to add 2 to every single number in order for that to be my equation. So if you look over here, I have kind of some hints here. When you look at my table, take a look what I'm doing. I have a 0, and I want to get to a negative 1. In order to do that, I'm going to subtract 1 or add a negative 1, right? Let's see if it's true for the next numbers. 1 minus 1, does that give me 0? Yep. 2 minus 1, does that give me 1? Yep. 3 minus 1, does that give me 2? Yes. All right. So our pattern then is our equation. Okay, so here's our table. You should have that written down by now. Now let's write the equation. Anytime you write the equation, it should always be y equals, and then what are you doing to your x? Because I'm subtracting 1 each time, I can write this as y equals x minus 1. All right, so I can put in any value for x, subtract 1, and that will give me my y value here. All right, now we wrote the equation, which is always y equals. Now we can go ahead and graph these 4 ordered pairs. So I have 0, negative 1, 1, 0, 2, 1, and 3, 2. So go ahead and graph those 4 ordered pairs and connect the dots. All right, and there we go. We were given the table, and now here we have our equation and our line. All right, and as you can probably guess, the third is, here's the graph, you write the equation and make the table, okay? It doesn't matter what order you make the other 2 items in, but you do need both. When you're given the graph, sometimes it's easier to write the table, because the table is just the ordered pairs, and then go looking at the table to find your pattern to write the equation. So here we have this line right here, and we're going to make a table and write the equation. So we want to fill in this information here from this graph. So go ahead and graph this, right, because you do need this in your notes. And I'm going to fill in the table first from the 4 ordered pairs. When you take a look, remember, it looks like I'm counting by 2's every tick marks. So if I'm halfway between 0 and 2 to go up to this point, that's actually at 1. So make sure you're looking at how they're counting as well. So it looks like I have the ordered pair 0, positive 2, 1, 4, 2, 6, and 3, 8. All right, so let's go ahead and plug that in. All right, now to write the equation, you got to play around with the pattern a little bit. How did I go from a 0 to a 2? Well, I could add 2, right? X plus 2 gives me 2. 0 plus 2 is 2. 1 plus 2, though, does that give me 4? Nope. All right, so plus 2 is not going to work. So now I'm going to have to maybe do some multiplication, division, and then add or subtract, right? So let's do 0 times 1 obviously is 0, and then plus 2, that's not going to work, right? 1 times 1 gives 1, plus 2 still doesn't give me 4. Let's multiply by 2. 0 times 2 is 0. Okay, and then what do I need to add to get to 2? I need to add 2. So times 2 plus 2. Let's see if it works for the next one. 1 times 2 is 2, plus 2, oh, 2 plus 2 gives us 4, okay. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 plus 2 is, oh, hey, 6. 3 times 2 is 6, 6 plus 2 is 8. So our pattern is working. Oh, look at my crazy 2 there. Sorry, my board's off a little bit. So we're multiplying by 2 and then adding 2. So now we have to write that as an equation. In equation form, remember, it's always y equals. All right. To write this, we're going to take and multiply x by 2 and then add 2. Remember that when we write a number in front of the x there, when we're multiplying, we don't need to put the x or the dot. We just write 2x. So this is y equals. Y equals 2x plus 2. Okay, so find your pattern. Those are the 3 ways then to do those. All right, your worksheet is 13.1. When you're done with that, you have IXL to work on in the K section. Your test on this is Monday, unless it's a snow day. then it might be a little later next week. But as you do this, make sure that you are putting it on graph paper. Make sure I want to see the equation, I want to see a table, and I want to see a graph for every single problem. All right, good luck.